Hello YouTube, this is Goddard Radio Moscow here again with another beer review. It's been a little while since I have done an English one, so here I have for you the Theakston Peculier, which comes to you from Yorkshire in the north of England, a little town called Masham. Incidentally, if you're visiting the north of England, you'll find the north of England is far more sparsely populated than the sort of Midlands in the south. Incidentally, if you're visiting there, I mean, it's a very beautiful place. You should definitely take a wee venture into Yorkshire if you go down there. But anyway, let me just take you through the history of this brewery, as I like to do in my videos. Now, the Threakston Brewery was founded in 1827 by Robert Threakston and John Wood at the Black Bull pub in Masham, which Threakston had been leasing for a number of years. However, by 1832, Threakston had sole ownership of the brewery, and in 1840 they had to build a new brew house at the back of the inn to cope with the demand for the ales, which proved to be very popular indeed. Unfortunately, in 1875 he died, and the brewery passed into the hands of his sons Robert and Thomas, and they expanded the brewery by building the new brewing facility at Paradise Fields, which I'm assuming is just a little area of this particular village. But the company had purchased these in 1850. In 1905, the company was registered as T&R Threakston Limited, obviously taking the initials of the two sons who were in charge. In 1914, Thomas's sons Edwin and Francis left to fight in the Great War, or the First World War, however you want to refer to that, but they left their sister Dora in charge of the brewery. Now, fortunately, Edwin and Francis made it home safely from the war, unlike so many in that particular conflict, but they became company directors with their father in 1918 when they returned. And a year later, in 1919, the company acquired and closed down the Lightfoot Brewery, which was also in Masham itself. Now, the next notable point in history is in 1968, which was when Michael Threakston, who was the great-grandson of the founder Robert, he joined the brewery, and that meant the brewery was in the fourth generation of the family. An interesting point as well is that in 1974 the company expanded into Cumbria, the very northwestern county of England, and they bought the Carlisle State Management Brewery. Now, this was the only brewery in Britain that had been nationalised, and David Lloyd George had done this in 1917 to control the excessive drinking of the Carlisle munitions workers. Obviously they needed to keep up production of the bullets and shells and things like that for the war effort, but this addition proved to be a bit of a financial drain on the Threakston company, and it resulted in them being bought over in 1984 by Matthew Brown plc from Blackburn in England also. In 1981, Simon Threakston, who was Michael's son and the fifth generation of the family, joined the brewery. However, 6 years later, in 1987, Scottish and Newcastle bought over the parent company of Threakston, Matthew Brown's, and this took the Threakston Brewery into the Scottish and Newcastle brand also. In 2003, however, Simon, along with his brothers Tim, Nick and Edward, returned the brewery to family ownership, but their father Michael, who I mentioned was the fourth generation of the Threakston family, he died less than a year later, but they said that he was safe in the knowledge that the brewery was under the old management back in the family name. In 2005, the brothers apparently completed the new brewing room, and this trebled the brewery's capacity, so very recently they've had a big major overhaul of the company. But apparently the Threakston Brewery is the 16th largest brewer in the UK by market share, and it is the second largest brewer under family ownership after Shepherd Neame. Incidentally, if you've been watching my videos, I reviewed the Hurleman beer, which is incidentally brewed by Shepherd Neame, so you can go and check that out. I'll put the link for that in the description, but you can actually go and visit the brewery itself. I looked up where Masham was in England, and you get Newcastle in the very northeast, and then you have York a little bit further inland and south, but Masham is actually pretty much bang in the middle of these two. And if you're driving down the A1 or up it, incidentally, you can just turn off and go into this village. The A1 is the main road that links the central belt of Scotland all the way down to London. But interestingly as well, another point that I found when I was researching this brewery is Paul Threakston. I'm not sure exactly where he fits into the family, but he was the managing director of the company between 1968 and 1988, and in 1988 he left the brewery to found the Black Sheep Brewery on the premises of the old Lightfoot Brewery, which was the one that I mentioned in 1919, that Threakston had bought over, also in Masham. So he owns that brewery. I'll need to try one of those beers actually. I've seen those in the several supermarkets and things when I've been having a little look around. But in addition to the Old Peculier, the other beers include Best Bitter, XB, which is a strong bitter, Black Bull Bitter, which is named obviously after the pub in which the brewery was founded. There's Traditional Mild, which is described as being a dark and dry beer. There's Lightfoot Bitter, which was originally a seasonal beer but apparently is now year-round due to the popularity that it had. And of course they have the Old Peculier here. I'll tell you about the style of this in a minute. But their 6 seasonal ales are Cooper's Butt, 4.3%, Hogshead Bitter, 4.1%, Grouse Bitter, Masham Ale, and Paradise Ale. Now, Old Peculier apparently is Threakston's most famous beer, and the name originates from the Peculier of Masham, which is the church, and this name has been used since 1890. On the bottle it says here, it actually has on the top here the seal of the official of the Peculier of Masham, dated 1741, and it says on the side here, it was the custom at the time for the church to administer the law, and this proved too arduous a task for the then Archbishop, who was based in York, so with due archiepiscopal aplomb he set up the independent Peculier court headed by the Peculier of Masham. So this is obviously where the name of this one comes from. As you can also see on the bottle art there, I'll just bring up the camera to make sure you're seeing that. You can see it has the seal of the Peculier of Masham up here, and it also has 10-word crime novels on here. Apparently, going by the back of the brewery, there's a crime writing festival in Harrogate which opens the beer, and this one incidentally has a little 10-word crime novel on it, which is Two Birds by Mark Billingham. It says, "She loved me, then her, now neither can love any more." Not really sure what the kind of point of that is, but fair enough. But anyway, the style of this beer is a 5.6% old ale. But anyway, without further ado, we can... Sorry, I'm reading this, it's 5.7%, it's not 5.6% at all. But anyway, let's get this guy out and we can get on with the tasting of this beer. Incidentally, I never let you see the bottle cap. This is a bit disappointing on the bottle cap, I have to say. I like my unique bottle caps, but let's get this guy open and get on with the tasting. Okay, oh, there's a lot of smoke coming off this one. Okay, so let's get this out and get it poured. As you can see, it's going to be a very, very dark colour here. This is a half-litre bottle, so I'll not get it all in my little tulip glass here. But as you can see, it's very, very dark. Just hold it up to the light and see it's coming through. Yeah, very, very dark, almost a stoutish colour. When you put the light through it, there is a little bit of red here. The head on this one is kind of foamy rather than bubbly, but there are some fairly substantial big bubbles in that as well. In terms of the aroma, sort of picking up the roasted malts, there's an element of caramel in there, kind of some chocolate and dark fruits as well. So you can see the head's starting to dissipate slightly. But yeah, incidentally, I never mentioned the beer was actually quite hazy as well. There's not much visible in the on the carbonation side of things, but that's probably just due to the colour of it. But let's give this guy a taste and see what he's like. Oh yeah. That's quite a nice one actually. The first thing that comes on the mouth is the malts. But you have the first thing that's coming is the roasted malts, and you have the caramel in the background with the dark fruits as well. There's also a kind of hint of coffee and dark chocolate in there, I would say. But yeah, the first thing that comes is the kind of roasted malts. You're getting the caramel and dark fruits in the background there, but there's also the subtle hint of coffee, and you're getting a kind of mild bitterness at the end. In terms of the mouth, this one I would say probably medium bodied. But it's not so much creamy. It's actually a fairly heavier beer. There is a little bit of creaminess to it, but I would be reluctant to say it's not quite as creamy as a stout beer is. But it's very, very smooth, very slightly creamy, kind of medium bodied. As I say, roasted malts, fruit, that little hint of caramel in the background. At the end you have that little bitter hop finish to it. The carbonation on it isn't too heavy at all actually. It's actually quite a nice mouthfeel, this one. That little element of cream and the kind of mid-bodiedness of it. It's, to be honest, I would describe this beer as being more of a tasting beer than you know, just a beer you would want to drink on a night out. It's good to have. I would say this is probably quite a good beer for kind of eating with a steak or a Sunday dinner or something like that. It's actually a really nice one, I have to say. Well, as I say, this is the most famous beer of the Threakston Brewery. To be honest, if this beer I actually find quite nice, I'm going to be quite keen to try some of their other stuff, and also to try that Black Sheep Brewery, which is owned by another member of the Threakston family, of course. But anyway, as I say, this is quite a roasted beer, not quite a stout. Some caramel elements, some dark fruit to it. It's fairly mid-bodied. It's a good tasting beer, not so much a drinking beer, I would say. But anyway, thanks again for watching my beer reviews. I'll be back during the week with some, I think I have some American beers, a Ukrainian one, and also a Japanese one. I've not done an Asian beer in a little while, so I'll probably do that next. But thanks again for watching my beer videos. Please let me know your own opinions of the beer. And incidentally, I'm not so sure about the names of different English breweries and stuff. So Englanders, if you're watching, please mention a few breweries in the comments, and I can have a look at these and review them as well. It's actually very difficult because of the kind of boom we've had in Scottish craft brewing the last few years to get good English stuff. This one I just kind of happened to find in Tesco's, and I thought it looks pretty cool, so I'll give it a try. But anyway, thanks again for watching. Please like, subscribe, share the videos with your friends if you've enjoyed them. Thanks again for watching, and I shall be back soon with another beer review. Cheers.